I am Curran Bhatia speaking with SHAWNE MERRIMAN. We know him as Lights Out, former NFL lineman, three-time Pro Bowler, and now the co-founder of Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Sean, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing well. So we know that you co-founded SHAWNE MERRIMAN'S Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Extreme Fighting 6 is airing on October 30th. It's on fuboTV. So got to ask, how did it even come together? The fact that you created this league, this fighting league, how did this come together?
Well, I've been around the sport for about 16 years. A good friend of mine, Jay Glazer, over there at Fox Sports, he when I got drafted by the Chargers after my rookie year, MMA was just becoming, getting big, right? Getting more mainstream. And he said, hey, maybe you should go out and try out some MMA because it'll be good for your hand-eye coordination. You can get, as a pass rusher in football, the better you are with your hands, the better pass rusher you're going to be. And so it'll be good for your leverage and stamina and so forth. So I said, I'll give it a shot. I came in a gym a few days later, and Jay Glazer was on my right. Randy Couture's on my left. So I didn't know if he wanted me to spar Randy Couture that day or what was going on. But I said, hell no, that's not happening. But anyway, he just, I worked with Randy Couture, was my first guy I ever got a chance to work with. And just working on my leverage and balance. And it changed my football play. The following year, in '06, I came out gunning because I was just so much better with my hands, so much more fluent in my hips, being able to use my leverage against those offensive tackles and things like that. I encourage a lot of former athletes to pick up the sport.
And I know that you said you actually grew up as a boxing fan. And I'm just curious, any boxers that maybe motivated you during your NFL career, any boxers that you were a fan of specifically?
I love Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson probably will go down always my favorite boxer. And it was just kind of so many similarities because he just mentally intimidated people before he even stepped in the ring. And sometimes in football, that was the case. When guys are watching film from the week before and they say, who the hell is that damn 56 right there going around trying to knock everybody out? And so you already, kind of in people's heads before the game. So I would say Mike Tyson. But I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. So they were in Virginia. There was tons of pro boxers. I had pro boxers in my family. It just talent all over the place. World champions.
And that is good company to learn from, I'm sure, for you. I know you mentioned that when you went into that MMA gym for the first time, Tito Ortiz was there, Chuck Liddell. You work with some of these guys, right? So what did you learn from these guys?
One, it was just, for me, it was humbling too, right? I remember being probably more than 50 pounds heavier than Randy Couture, and somehow, some way we were pummling. He was just throwing me around and using my body, and I just didn't understand how he was capable of doing that, because I knew I was bigger, knew I was stronger, knew I was more athletic, but somehow he was able to use his leverage and do certain things with me. So, just working with a lot of these guys. Obviously, Tito's one of the best wrestlers, in the world. And he's great on the ground and got a chance to strike with Chuck and Chuck Liddell, just been around. And this is over a 16-year period. So fast forward, now with Lights Out Extreme Fighting, I launched Lights Out Extreme Fighting in 2018. And straight out of the pandemic, we partnered up with FUBO Sports for people to come view it.
And that is the event, Lights Out Extreme Fighting 6. It's going to be on October 30th on FUBO Sports. So you co-founded this league. Are we going to see you also in the cage?
I can't say no. And this is why I can't say no, because I still do actively train. I don't train this, like I'm getting prepared for a fight. But 2-3 days a week I spar. I normally get at least one good Friday in. You got an open mat and go in and get some work. But for me, it's more of a discipline, right? Staying in shape, obviously having the career that I had and playing that long, you're going to walk out with some injuries and some stuff like that. So me, I just kind of staying with it. I need that edge for me personally. But to actually go and do it, I'm just not ready now. But it would take me, a nice 3 or 4 months to get in shape.
I saw somewhere, and it said that you wanted a celebrity MMA match with Logan Paul. Is that accurate?
Well, I didn't say I wanted him. The question was asked if I would fight him, and the answer is still yes. I mean, I would do that in a second if he was open to do it. But with me, I'm kind of like in a generation where you start to call people, like I love to fight, You know, and Logan knows that, and Jake, and I know those guys well, and they know sometimes when they're in there sparring and working, I've been in the gym right next to him, like, and so we've all been there. So I love to fight. So if he was open to say, hey, I would fight you MMA, I would start training tomorrow, right? I think that would be great for Lights Out. I think that a lot of people would love to see that. But this whole active generation of calling people out for clout and doing all that, I can't get into it. Like if I want to fight you, and I have behind the scenes offered contracts or reached out to certain people that the public don't even know, but I've offered to, fight other guys. I'm just not about that, calling people out to get some attention. I'm not with it.
And in terms of Logan and Jake Paul, I mean, they're obviously polarizing figures in combat sports, right? And if you look at what they're doing well, they're marketing the sport. They're putting fighters on the undercard who are getting paid higher than they have before, bringing more eyeballs to the sport. What do you think about the impact of someone like a Logan Paul or a Jake Paul in terms of what they're doing for combat sports?
I think it's great. And it's, this is how you got to look at it, right? So you got guys who haven't been doing this for a very long time. They created something, and I get it with the whole pay scale and things like that. What Jake is really big on, the guys getting paid more. He has to also understand, I've told this to him, is that he was somebody before he came to the sport, right? He created his name. He created who he is. So that's why he can require these big paydays. So, and Logan the same way. And I think it's cool that these other former MMA guys or former boxers that are on the card getting paid more, but they also got to understand that they were somebody else too, right? Before they came in it, they have a great record. They're not like, starting 3-0, right? Or 5-0. These are established, people who's been around the sport for a very long time. So of course they're going to get more because now they have name recognition.
And you mentioned that you had sent contracts behind the scenes to a few people. Now, I'm going to ask you two questions. One, can you tell us who any of those people are? And if you can't, can you at least tell us who a dream opponent or dream matchup would be for you?
I had my team, I had a few people on my team to get a hold of Shaq. I thought that, because he's been doing jiu-jitsu. I've saw him a long time ago with Shane Mosley. I mean, he's great athletic. I don't know if that was something he was still looking at doing. Maybe he just want to own part of leagues. I don't know. But actually get in there, I don't know if he actually wants to get in the cage. But I actively reached out to Shaq. Dave Bautista, I've had, several people on my side to reach out to him. Logan, I think we've kind of kid around with it, but, there's always some seriousness with that. But for me, it's specific people who I know that the fans are going to pay to watch, to see, right? And I'm sure there's a few more out there too, but I'm open. I'm not, I can't really close that door because, I still feel great. I still feel like I can do it.
And if you were able to get this fight with Shaq, you're listed at 6'4", Shaq, of course, over 7 feet. How would you make up the height difference, and what would be the game plan for someone to get someone like Shaq?
Big trees fall hard. You know that. You got to chop somebody down like that. But, one thing about Shaq, he's pretty good on the ground too. So it's not like, you get on the ground and he doesn't know what to do. So that'd be interesting, but I would do it in a second.
And we've actually seen Lamar Odom take part in celebrity boxing. Is that someone that you would have any interest in taking on?
No, I wouldn't do that to him. And it would only have to be, MMA too. I had a couple of opportunities to go and box for sure, and it's just not something that I'm into.
And I wanted to ask you that your style in the cage in MMA. We know what your style was in the NFL, and obviously very aggressive, pushing the action. Obviously, is that your style also in MMA?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's I'm a banger. I go in there and like to bang a little bit. Plus, also too, I'm able to get anybody on the ground. I mean, it's just obviously I've been tackling my whole life, so to get people on the ground is not that big of a deal for me. But going against experienced guys who are great on the ground and great wrestlers and things like that is over the last couple of years I've probably concentrated on that more than anything else because those guys are just so damn experienced.
And in terms of your NFL career, you're 37 years old now. You retired in 2013. We know you spent 5 years with the Chargers, but you also had a lot of injuries in your career. If you look back on your NFL playing career, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yes, a couple of times I probably would have sat out not played through certain things. I mean, because at the end of the day, your career is going to be short no matter what. They're playing in the NFL is just short. And the fact I played 8 years and the last 2 kind of hobbling around, it just shows you how physical the game is. So if anything, if I would go back and change, I would say that when I was hurt, probably get surgeries when I needed to and sit out, take the time and coming back so I wouldn't compensate for something else. And I just wouldn't rush it back. But that's really the only thing.
And I'm sure that you're a very interested observer in the NFL now. How do you think the game has changed since you played?
Everything, literally everything. When you watch the game now, it's still a physical sport, but way less physical. I'm seeing some of the quarterbacks that are getting touched on the shoulder pads. And the other day with Kyler Murray barely getting pushed and they called a personal foul. I can't imagine playing through that because it would just literally take out the fun for me. The reason why I got into football, because I love the physical part of it. I love the physicality. And the mental aspect that come with being physical and, trying to get another man to quit. And so now if you're taking that away, I'm kind of looking around like, what can I do? Why am I here? Why am I playing if I can't actually do what I love doing?
And I'm just curious, your thoughts on that overall, because in terms of boxing and fighter safety, we talk about this all the time because there needs to be improvements in fighter safety. We know that. And obviously that was the thought process there with the NFL as well. So I understand what you're saying about you want to be aggressive and do your thing, but how do you balance that in terms of, I'm sure you also want to have a safe playing field and post-career players being able to live a normal life. So in your mind, how do you think the balance works with that?
Well, I always say we get paid a handsome ransom, right? Like it's when you come and play this sport and you sign up, you know that you're going to have some injuries, fingers, back, knee, ankle, foot, something, shoulder. And that's just a part of it. The other part of it is that let's not get it mistaken. This is America. We love violence. We love violence. That's why the NFL is able to get 70, 80 plus thousand people to a stadium. How do you get that many people that emotional over a sport, right? To the point where people are crying, upset if their team loses, because we love the physicality and the violence in this country. Do you want guys to be safer? Absolutely. No question about it. The helmet contact that they're, implementing stuff like that, I think that's great. That hit that was on Kyler Murray where he barely got pushed, or some of these taunting things that just take the emotion and the passion out of the game. That part of it, I can never get behind. It's just something with me, and the reason why everybody we used to have these sayings in high school when we run these wind sprints at the end of practice in the 100-degree weather in training camp, and people leaning over and puking and they can't go. And my coach would always say, if it was easy, everybody would be doing this, right? And that always stuck with me, that football is special. MMA, fighting is special. Because when you're tired as hell and somebody got you against that cage and you're trying to get up and you can't get up and you're trying to breathe air and there's nothing to breathe, right? If everybody can do it, they would do it. But that's what makes it special.
That was your mindset when you were playing football. I'm sure all the way through your entire career. Do you think that if you took place and if you partake in fighting long term, would that also be your mindset in fighting? Because we've looked at fighters like, for example, Deontay Wilder. He said a couple of things. He said, one, he wants a body on his record. He's also said when he was on the verge of the fight being stopped in the second fight versus Fury, he didn't want the referee or the corner to stop it. He wanted to go out in his shield, and he had made peace with that. That was his mindset. Would that also be your mindset if you were fighting at a higher level?
Yeah, 100%. And that could be dangerous too, to have that mindset, because even sometimes, especially early on, I would even hate tapping out in practice if somebody got me, right? But you learn how to be smarter over the course of time, and just because you're tough don't make you smart, right? And I'm not sitting here saying, hey, let's bang it out and give each other CTE, but at the same time too, there is a physicality about both sports that is the reason why it is as big as it is. People love it. This country, we love it.
And after your playing career, we know that you've gone into entrepreneurship. We talked about the fighting league. One thing that you posted on Instagram, you said, it's taken me 16 years of dedication, consistency, resilience to build up the Lights Out Fighting brand. I fought some of the biggest companies in the world, spent millions of dollars in legal fees. So what has the journey been like for you as an entrepreneur? It seems like obviously there was some hurdles there that you had to deal with.
Yeah, it's been great, but you don't ever appreciate it until you go through it, right? And it's still a lot to go through. It's with Lights Out Extreme Fighting, people are just seeing the tip of the iceberg. The stuff that we got coming is just next level. And I know there's big leagues out there that's doing great stuff, but me, I maneuver a little different, and I know I have to be, because we are a smaller company, maneuver a little smarter. And do some things outside of the box, but we got some things coming that is going to shake up this whole sport.
And any clues on what we know about the Extreme Fighting League? Anything else that you can kind of clue us in with the Lights Out brand?
Well, I'll say this: FUBO is getting very interactive in fight, or in game, or whenever a soccer match, or for us MMA or things like that. It's going to be very interactive here soon. I'll say that.
And so let me ask you this. We talked about how difficult it was in terms of entrepreneurship. What do you think's tougher, entrepreneurship or football?
Entrepreneurship. Football, I can pass rush in the dark. I can roll out of the bed and I can, give you 2-3 pass rush moves, no problem. Being an entrepreneur, you're getting stuff every single day. You're fighting a good fight. There's never a day that goes by that you're not learning something, you're not failing or getting better at something. It's a roller coaster. And, I'm the type, I'll put my hands up and say, let's go.
We mentioned the work you're doing with Lights Out. I think a lot of times when we see people playing in the NFL for a high level, and then you don't see them for a few years, it's always like, what are they up to? What are they doing? So what is life like now for Shawne Merriman, and what are you up to?
It's mainly Lights Out and the brand. So the MMA obviously is the biggest aspect of it. But all the streaming deals, all the sponsorship and investment meetings, and I'm still still pretty active when it comes to TV and podcasts and doing media and things like that. I mean, there's really no, I also have a life insurance agency called Lights Out Agency under Family First Life. I have about 125 agents as well. So, for me, it's just, it's nonstop, right? It's no time. I mean, I might have an hour from, once we get off from 8:30 to 9:30, and then I'm going again till 4, right? Then I might have 45 minutes to an hour off, and I'm going again till 7. And, that's pretty much life, man. 7 days a week, I still hit it. I'm in the gym at least 5 days a week, if not more. And just, I like to go, man. That's really what it comes down to. I like to go. I like to get after it, and just keep moving forward.
And you talked about your training that you've done in MMA, and you obviously have a passion for it. So let me ask you this. Now, if you could look back and maybe start your sports career again, would you maybe consider going into fighting and not the NFL?
I would have still done it in NFL, but what I would have done is I would have immediately got into fighting. I would start training for fights. The problem is that when I retired in 2013, I don't think most promotions understood someone that's having a name, someone who's already created a name somewhere else, like they're doing now with all the celebrity fights and things like that. I was kind of just ahead of my time in wanting to do this, right? Because for what I was asking for when I retired, I mean, some of these leagues looked at me like I was crazy. Like, oh my God, we pay you $500,000 plus for your first fight? Yeah, you will. I mean, because people are going to watch. People want to see a former NFL guy or former NBA, former rugby, former NHL. They want to see them get in the cage or the ring and fight. And if you do it right on pay-per-views, it's going to be beneficial for you. You're going to win big. And I don't think that some of the other leagues who I had offers from to fight when I retired understood that. And I was just ahead of the game. I said, no, this is going to be a big deal. Put me against another WWE guy or another former football player or another, whoever, and then you promote the hell out of it. And everybody looked at me like, I don't know, and I was at that time I was asking for like $500,000. which they looked at as crazy. And I looked at it as, I'm taking a pay cut.
We've seen the rise of celebrity fighting and athletes of, from other sports fighting, and it's obviously huge now with so many different platforms. Let me ask you two last questions before I let you go. Number one, Lights Out Extreme Fighting 6. It's on FuboTV, October 30th. Tell people why you're excited about this card.
I'm excited about this card because there's 3 title fights on this card. And a lot of people are going to see some guys, some former UFC guys, some former Bellator guys, throwing down. I'm really excited about this Alba Morales and Henry. I don't know how long that fight's going to go, but however long it's going to go, it is going to be some sparks, man. These guys, oh my God, I've trained with Albert before personally over at Black House a few times, and I just watched him work. And Henry, man, is probably one of the best that's been around. This hasn't really made it to that main stage just yet, but he can throw it down too. So I think that's going to be my fight I'm really watching.
And final question before I let you go. Obviously, people have followed your career for a long time. So what would be your kind of final message to your fans and your supporters? What would you want to say?
Well, first of all, I appreciate it because we have sold out every single fight that we've had and turned away hundreds of people at the door. And it's, to the point where we have to start looking at bigger venues. And that really becomes because of the people. I think that, if you watch me on social media, I'm always thanking the fans or doing stuff with fans or just around the people, because I don't think that when you make it to a certain level, people in my position don't put the emphasis on fans and supporters, even the haters, because it's all bringing attention to whatever you're doing. And that's really, at the end, it's support. And so you really have to be appreciative of that.
Lights Out Extreme Fighting 6. It's on October 30th. It's on fuboTV, Fubo Sports. Shawne Merriman, thank you so much of the time, and best of luck with the Lights Out brand.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.